This week's been an interesting week. You see, I've had a few issues with the GTE, and these are known issues, and this is one of the reasons why I haven't been driving it around so much. You'll see in a moment. But when driving the GTE, well, it felt like I was driving, you know, one of these.
Mad scientist, big speed right now. Slap wheelie. Flooring it right now. What?
And in fact, I saw a friend the other day and, well, this happened. You alright, mate? Alright. Is that an SUV? No, it's a GTE. Yeah, not good. So today we need to sort out that suspension and get that car lower. Give it some stance. So we're going to fit the max speeding rod, or max speeding rod suspension kit, coilover kit. At least that was a plan. And then as we start to do things spectacularly start to go downhill. Well, rather than me gassing on about it, let me show you in a video. Okay, so the main issue with the suspension on this car is these gaps. I mean, look at that. I can get my whole fist in there. That's how big the gap is. It's just not cool. And the back is even worse. Look at this. Look at that. That's huge. So what we want to do is lower the car down so that it looks, you know, like it's got some kind of stance on there. I mean, I like the wheels, and the wheels are a bit Marmite. Some people like them, some people don't. But that height just won't do. Makes this car more of a than a Golf with attitude. So let's get them sorted. There is, of course, another reason, and I'm going to show you that in a bit. But first of all, we're going to get this wheel off, then we're going to get the shock off, and then you're going to have a look. Now, just before, to set the scene, I've not been driving this car. I've only driven it a couple of times, and that was to the MOT station and back. And then I've done a couple of test drives. There is a reason why. You're going to find out today. Let's get on. Right, so since this wheel, when it comes off and we're going to drop the suspension, we need to know how much we need to drop the suspension by, and we do that by measuring the top of the suspension to where the new suspension will fit. You kind of get that figure. So here we are about, from where the edge of the wheel is, it's about 6 to 7 centimeters. So we're going to drop about 6 centimeters. I just measured the other side and it's roughly around the same. So 6 centimeters will give us about 1.5 centimeters above the car. That's a starting guide, and then we'll get the new shocks on, and we'll see how we go once we do a test ride. Right, so we have taken all the bolts out that are holding the strut in place, included the sway bar, though I've got to jack up the wheel, which you'll see me do in a second. But this tool, this is really important. So what it is, it's a splitter, and it goes in between the back here. So in the back of this hub there is a little join, or a gap. This goes in between, and you turn it with a normal ratchet 90 degrees. It opens that up and allows the actual hub to swivel out. But first we need to just jack up the wheel, the hub, so we can get the suspension to drop down a little bit. Then we'll see how we do with this. Shock is now out, so now we just got to loosen it from the top. Let's do that now. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I haven't done many trips in this car, and for a very good reason. The next clip you're going to see is going to help you to see why I haven't made any trips. Okay, so this is the suspension. Can you notice anything? Well, maybe a little bit challenging to see on the camera. What I can tell you is that this suspension is bent. Here's my finger. This is straight. Okay, that's straight. There's the angle that that's at. It's also bent at the top of the strut there as well. So it's bent in two places. Now, when I took the car for an MOT, you may be wondering why this wasn't picked up in the MOT. Well, the MOT tests sideways movement from the actual wishbones. So they're looking to see if there's any, if the bushes are gone, and then they look for the suspension. The suspension on this works pretty well. It works just as it should. But when you're driving it, you can hear a knocking noise, and this is inside here that's knocking, and you can see that it's leaking as well, which means that it's obviously given up as well. So this is truly gone, and this is the reason why you need to give your cars thorough checks. Now, I was going to replace this anyway, as I mentioned in the first video when I started working on this car, that we were putting on the max speeding rod kit, so I wasn't too bothered about sorting the suspension out in the first instance. And it's also the reason why I've only driven this car 3 times, which is the test drive to the MOT and back, and then another drive to see if I could diagnose the suspension sound, because at first I thought it was coming from the wishbone. But yeah, so really, in any kind of impact you have, change your suspension. Don't use the existing, because this will happen. And there's no danger of this coming to pieces because it's locked in with the springs, etc. So it wasn't going to come apart. But if you'd driven this long term, it would have caused you some problems at some point. Certainly with the fluid gone, then the suspension would start to bounce around. Anyway, let's get the new one in, because we need to do some measuring up. Now, taking the actual strut out was pretty challenging. So getting it out was great, but then of course now we need to put the new strut in, the max speeding rod, and we need to do some measuring up. This happened. Okay, so Houston, we have a problem. This is tight, as you can see. This is not. Max speeding rods, these shocks don't fit this car, unfortunately. This has got a bigger aperture. I did think this could be a problem, that's why I wanted to try to fit them, but anyway, we're gonna have to take them off and go and get some stock ones. So now I don't have a strut to put back on the car, and just when things couldn't get any worse, this happened. Now, before we get onto the door, I have propped up the lower wishbone because it was hanging down low, and it caused the drive shaft to stretch out. And when the drive shaft stretch out, what happens, it pulls out of its socket and the ball bearings come loose. Now, I'm not sure if that's happened here, but I'm going to have to check this before we reassemble the shock, which is a real pain. But hopefully it's going to be okay. It looks okay, though this is stretched, but that might just be... I am nervous. I'm not sure whether or not this is actually damaged, because if it's damaged, and it doesn't feel like the ball bearings have come out, you can normally feel them. I'll have to replace the drive shaft again. Yeah, we don't want to do that.
A few moments later.
Okay, bad news. I can confirm my worst fear. The drive shaft has popped out, which means all the ball bearings have come out. It's a real shame. I'm going to see if I can get a kit to repair that. I'm not sure if you can, and then just re-grease it and repack it, because it'd be a real shame to have to buy a new drive shaft just because that's come apart, because we know it's not damaged, it's just popped out. So let's see if we can resurrect that. Yeah, no point crying over spilt milk. So we'll come back to the drive shaft, and don't worry, it is good news in the end. But in the meantime, let's get that new door fitted, at least get something done in this episode. All right, door is out, and you can see the extent of the damage here, can't you? See that? And it's not really that bad, I've been told. It's quite a simple repair, but it's easy to do it with a new door in place. So let's go and put the new door on. Actually, we do need to strip this one first, so might just do that. And since we're not going to put this door back on, I don't have to be careful. Okay, the door is on, and you can see the gap there, can't you? That's why the body shop said get a new door, and they can match this and bring it out. So at least that piece is done. Now something interesting is going to be happening. So with this here, I've actually found the piece now, brand new and cheap. That's coming next week. Now I'm thinking, wait for it, I'm thinking that maybe I might just try to do this. I'm a bit more confident this time, and I've been practicing. So what do you think? Do you think I should attempt to do some welding again, or do you think I should just leave it to the body shop? If I leave it to the body shop, it's going to be a while. If I do it myself, yeah, we could get this fixed really quickly. But let me know in the comments below, what do you think? Especially if you've seen this video. Look on the top. If you click on the top there, you'll see my attempts to do welding on my ST. So do you think I should try again, or do you think I should leave it? Okay, now I'm going to take this dry shaft off and see if we can get it salvaged, or see if we can salvage it. Right, so we can actually save this drive shaft, because in here I thought it was ball bearings. It's not actually. What it is like these cups. I'll show you on the screen now. So literally all we need to do is just maneuver this back into place, and then we should be able to get it back in. Okay, so a little bit of wrestling, and hopefully that should be it, he says. But this one definitely is giving us a hard time. Right, let's try again. There we go. There we go. Right, so that is in now, so we don't have to replace this. And that's good news. This isn't, none of the gaiters are damaged. It literally just popped out the socket. Now in some dry shafts you do have to press them in. Audis don't. I had a similar issue on the Q5. I actually replaced the gasket and then realized that I replaced the whole drive shaft and realized I didn't have to. But anything that's had a hit, it's worth changing. Now this is a replacement drive shaft, so it's not the one that was originally on the car. I replaced that for the very same reason. Even though it did pop out the socket here, because it was actually damaged, I figured not worth keeping it because I'm keeping the car. Let's replace it, and this is the replacement one. So all that happened is that it just popped out, and now it's back in fine and working the way it should be. Because this doesn't really move that much. What it does, it moves up and down. That's all it does. Right, so that can go back on the car as soon as we get the springs and the new shocks. Right, so door card. So this is the door card from the car, the back door, obviously, you know that. We're going to just take this off. It's very simple on these. On the back doors there's no bolt, it's just literally lever your way around and 2 bolts here. So we'll get on and get those done, and then we can fit that into the car. So the good news, we've got the drive shaft back together. It's not an issue, it pops out, that's what they do. But they can pop back in and they're absolutely fine as long as the seal isn't broken. So what I've done is I have ordered myself a pair of new front struts. We're going to replace the pair. They're actually not new, they are second hand, but they come from a decent source. I know where they've come from, and they actually were from a Golf R. The Golf R uses exactly the same struts as is fitted to the GTE. And I've also ordered some H&R springs. And I've ordered 35mm lower H&R springs. So they are coming from Germany, so they should be here sometime this week, I'm hoping, so we can fit them in the next episode. And that's going to solve our monster truck issue. So it's been a bit of a challenging one, but you know what? I'm glad in a way, because I much rather fit the H&R springs. I've got no issue with the max speed and rods, but obviously I know it's a hard ride. This ride will be more comfortable, and that means that the car is going to be much more usable. So if you want to see those springs installed, you better tune in for next week's meeting. But in the meantime, don't forget to subscribe. Click on the bell notification so you're notified whenever I release any new videos. And those of you who are just casual viewers, click on that subscribe button. Join the car support team. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we will see you next week on the next one.